Hi guys, and welcome back to the Crochet Toy YouTube channel. In today's video I'm bringing you another new crochet tutorial, and I know it's been a bit of a while since I've released a new crochet tutorial, so I am sorry for that. I've just been working on patterns from books, to be honest, so that I can review the books, and just taking a bit of a break from creating my own patterns. But I decided to finally do a pattern that's been very highly requested, so I've had multiple requests for this, and this is going to be for Cinderace from Pokémon. So this is going to complete my Score Bunny evolution line, because I've already got Score Bunny and I've already got a Raboot pattern as well, which you can find on my channel. So I've got two Cinderaces here. So I've got this one, which is the shiny version, and then this one, which is the normal version. In the video I'm making the normal version, but if you wanted to make the shiny, you just need to make obviously some colour changes, but there's no other changes other than just changing the colour, so that should be fairly straightforward to figure out. But yeah, I guess without further ado, if you're interested in finding out how to make this, then do keep watching. One other quick thing to mention is that the written pattern for this tutorial and for all other tutorials on my channel is available in the link below on Ravelry for a fee of £2. I've decided to start charging for my written patterns because they're still available for free in the video, so if you don't want to pay, you can still just watch the video and follow the instructions in the video. But if you did want a copy of the written pattern, I decided just to charge a little small nominal fee for that, just because, you know, I wasn't really making any money out of my blog that I had previously. So yeah, just thought I'd mention that in case you're interested in obtaining the written pattern. For this tutorial you'll be needing aran weight yarn in the following colours: white, yellow, orange and dark blue. You'll be needing your crochet hook. I've got a 4mm crochet hook to go with my aran weight yarn, but if you're using a heavier or lighter weight of yarn you can size up or down as required. Then you'll be needing some felt. You'll need red, dark blue, yellow and white felt. This is for various details such as the eyes and some of the face details as well. Then you'll be needing some scissors. You'll be needing some fabric glue to glue down your felt pieces. I've just got fabric tack here, but you can use whatever you like. Then you'll be needing some stuffing. You'll need more than this, but this is just to demonstrate. You'll be wanting a stitch marker. I've just got an offcut of yarn that I use for this. Then you'll be wanting some scrap black yarn for adding the toe details, and then some scrap black embroidery thread for adding the mouth. Now you don't need both the embroidery thread and the yarn. If you've only got one or the other, that's completely fine, but for me I just wanted there to be a difference in the line thickness on the mouth versus the toes, so that's why I've got two different thicknesses of black there. You'll be needing your yarn needle to add the details and also to sew all the pieces together. And then finally you'll probably want some pins to help keep things in place as you're sewing them down. We're going to start by crocheting the head, so you're going to want your white yarn for this. We're going to start off for round 1 doing 6 single crochets in a magic circle. Then you're just going to pull on the tail to close up that hole. So that's round 1. Then for round 2 you're going to do an increase in each stitch all the way around, which will get you up to 12 single crochets. And I'm going to crochet over the tail for a few stitches just to secure that in place, then we can cut it later if we want to. Okay, so at the end of round 2 you should have your 12 single crochets all the way around, and if your hole in the middle is starting to open up a little bit, you can just do a final pull of this tail here to close it up completely. For round 3 we're going to start off by doing a single crochet, and then in the next stitch you're going to do an increase. And you're just going to repeat that pattern all the way around. So single crochet, increase. Okay, so at the end of round 3 I've got 18 single crochets now, and if this tail is annoying you, if you've crocheted over it and secured it in place, you can snip it at this point as well, just to get that out of the way. I'm just going to talk you through the next few rounds now, as it's just standard increases in increments of 6, and then some rounds of just single crocheting all the way around. So for round 4 you're going to do 2 single crochet increase and repeat 5 more times to get you up to 24 single crochets. Round 5, 3 single crochet increase, repeat 5 more times to get you up to 30. Round 6, 4 single crochet increase, repeat 5 more times to get you up to 36. Round 7, 5 single crochet increase, repeat 5 more times to get you up to 42. Round 8, 6 single crochet increase, repeat 5 more times to get you up to 48. Then rounds 9 to 18, so 10 rounds in total, just single crochet all the way around. So that should be 48 single crochets for each round from round 9 to 18. I'll meet you when you're ready to start round 19, as we're then going to start doing some decreases. I'm about to start round 19 now, and this is what the head's looking like, so hopefully you can see it's starting to take shape. As I mentioned, we're going to start doing some decreases now, so we're going to start by doing 6 single crochets, and I am just going to mark that first single crochet I do, just to make it easier to keep track of the rounds. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then we're going to do a decrease, so we're going to start off as if we're doing a normal single crochet, pull up a loop, but then instead of yarning over and pulling through both loops on our hook, we're going to go into the next stitch and pull up another loop, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. So that's our first decrease. We're going to repeat this pattern all the way around, so that will be 6 single crochet decrease. I'll show you once more. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then a decrease. So I'll meet you when you finish that all the way around. That should get you down to 42 single crochets at the end of round 19. I've reached the end of round 19, and this is what my head is looking like now. So I've got 42 single crochets at the moment. We're going to do a few more rounds of decreasing in multiples of 6, so I'm just going to talk you through those, as you should now be comfortable with doing decreases. So for round 20 you're going to do 5 single crochet decrease and repeat that 5 more times to get you down to 36 single crochets. Round 21, 4 single crochet decrease, repeat 5 more times to get you down to 30 single crochets. Round 22, 3 single crochet decrease, repeat 5 more times to get you down to 24 single crochets, and then round 23, 2 single crochet decrease, repeat 5 more times to get you down to 18 single crochets. I'll meet you at the end of round 23, as we then need to stuff the head firmly at this point. So I finished round 23 and I've firmly stuffed the head now, and this is what it's looking like. So we're nearly finished with the head. When you're stuffing, just make sure that you stuff enough that the head is firm, but not too much that you're seeing loads of stuffing through the gaps. Thankfully we're crocheting in white here, so even if you can see the stuffing peek through a bit, it's not really the end of the world. But yeah, I'm just going to do the last couple of rounds with you now. So for round 24 we're going to do single crochet decrease all the way around, which will get us down to 12 single crochets. Okay, so that is round 24 complete. I've got my 12 single crochets now. Now finally for round 25 you're going to do single crochet decrease, and you're going to repeat that 3 more times. That'll get you down to 8 single crochets at the end of the round. So for this final round, we're decreasing in a multiple of 4, which is different to what we've been doing for the rest of the head, but this will allow us to have the right number of single crochets left at the end to make it easier to sew the head to the body later on. Okay, so that is the head complete. You're just going to cut your yarn now, leaving quite a long tail for sewing. I always prefer to leave more than I maybe think I need, just to be on the safe side. And then just pull that yarn through like this. And now you are ready for when we're going to need to sew this to the body. You don't need to close up this hole here, just leave that open, because like I say, we're going to be sewing this to the body later on. So now we're going to crochet the feet next. So we're going to need to crochet 2 feet. I've already gone ahead and crocheted 1 just to show you what it's going to look like. So this is the basic shape for the foot. So we're going to start off with our orange yarn this time. And for round 1, we're going to do 6 single crochets in a magic circle, exactly the same as what we did for the head. Then for round 2, again, the same as we did for the head, we're going to increase all the way around. That will get us up to 12 single crochets at the end of round 2. And again, I'm crocheting over that tail to secure it in place. Okay, so at the end of round 2, you should have your 12 single crochets. I'm just going to talk you through the next few rounds. So for round 3, you're going to do single crochet increase and repeat that 5 more times to get you up to 18 single crochets. Again, exactly the same as what we did for the head. Then for rounds 4 to 6, so 3 rounds in total, you're just going to single crochet all the way around in each round. So that should be 18 single crochets in each of those 3 rounds. Now, I will meet you when you're about to do your final single crochet of round 6, as that is when we're going to change to our dark blue colour, so I'll show you how to do that. So I'm about to do my final single crochet of round 6 now, and I'm going to change to dark blue in this stitch. There are lots of different methods for changing colour, but this time I'm just going to use a standard colour change method, because even though it's not quite as neat as some other methods, the colour change part of this foot can be hidden at the bottom of the foot anyway, so I don't think it really matters if it's a little bit more visible. So I'm just going to start off by doing a normal single crochet like this, but instead of yarning over and pulling through in my orange colour, I'm going to grab my dark blue instead, and I'm going to pull through in dark blue. And now I am ready to use my dark blue for round 7 and for the remaining rounds of this foot. So now what we're going to do for round 7 is we're going to do single crochet decrease all the way around, and that will get us down to 12 single crochets at the end of the round. So I'll just start that off with you now. I'm going to crochet over the yarn tails as well for a couple of stitches, and then I can just give a little pull on them just to make sure that they're secure in there, and then I can cut my orange yarn tail because we don't need that anymore, and then I can just move those tails out the way. So I'm going to continue going all the way around, single crochet, decrease. Should be pretty obvious when you finish the round, when you're doing your first round in dark blue, because obviously you'll be working in all of the orange stitches to start with. Okay, so that is round 7 complete. We've got our 12 single crochets and we've changed to dark blue. I'm going to talk you through the next few rounds now until we need to actually stuff the foot. So for rounds 8 to 13, you're just going to single crochet all the way around. So that's 6 rounds of 12 single crochets. Round 14, you're going to do 2 single crochet decrease and repeat that twice more to get you down to 9 single crochets at the end of the round. Round 15, you're going to single crochet all the way around, and then I'll meet you just before you're about to start round 16, as we're then going to stuff the foot, and then we've just got that one final round left to do. I've just finished round 15 and I've added my stuffing. You're going to want to stuff moderately, so don't stuff too much, but also try not to make it too light either. You just want it to be, like I say, moderate and just enough that you can still kind of squash the foot down a little bit like this, but it has a little bit more height to it. So that's the stuffing finished. Now we're just going to do one final round to finish this off. So for round 16, you're just going to do single crochet decrease, and you're going to do that 3 times in total, and that's going to get you down to 6 single crochets at the end of the round. Okay, so now I'm going to cut my yarn, leaving a little bit of a tail. Then I'm going to pull the yarn tail through like this, and I'm going to get my yarn needle. This time we are going to actually close up this remaining hole. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through the front loop of each of those final 6 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to start in this stitch and go through just the front loop. And pull as you do so, and you should see the hole start to close up. So now the hole should be closed up, then you can just weave your yarn tail through the hole and out through the foot, and just pull gently just to close that hole up even more. And now you can just cut that yarn tail, as we will not be needing this for sewing or anything like that. So now you're going to just want to repeat that all once more so that you have 2 feet that are exactly the same. Then what we're going to do next is we're going to add toe details to the feet using either scrap black yarn or black embroidery thread, depending on whatever you have. So I've added the toe details on one of the feet. I'm going to do the other one with you now. I've got my scrap black yarn and I've got my yarn needle here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from the bottom of the foot, go through a stitch and come out through a stitch at the top. So this is roughly at round 3 I am going through at the moment. And then I'm going to go back through that stitch at the bottom and then come out through another one at the top, a few single crochets away. Just pull gently on this. And then I'm going to again pick another stitch at the bottom to go through, and then go through that and through the bottom of the foot to somewhere in the dark blue area. And again, just pull gently like this. Oops. And I'm just going to compare that to my other foot to make sure I'm happy with the placement before I finish that off, but yeah, I think that's fine. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut this yarn tail here, the long one, and then this short one here. I'm going to feed this through the dark blue area of the foot as well. Cut that. So you should end up with something like this. And if you're noticing that the stuffing is coming through a bit when you're doing this and it's obvious on the black yarn, you can use some tweezers to just remove that, or you can just do it with your fingers if you don't have any tweezers. But yeah, that's one way that you can tidy it up a little bit. The next thing we're going to make is the little yellow dots that go on the bottom of the feet. So we're going to need 3 per foot, so that's 6 in total. I've obviously got 5 here just to show you what they look like, and then I'm going to do the 6th one with you now. So I'll just move these out of the way. So you're going to obviously need your yellow yarn, and it's only 1 round that we're doing here, which is just 4 single crochets in a magic circle. Then you're just going to pull on that yarn tail to close up the hole, and then cut your yarn, leaving a tail long enough for sewing. Again, I always leave a bit more than I maybe think I'm going to actually need. Pull that yarn tail through. You can see that if we left it here, this isn't very neat. You could obviously just slip stitch into the next stitch if you wanted to, but I prefer to use this fake single crochet method to create a full circle effect. So if you just turn your piece like this, put your hook into the final single the first single crochet that you did in the round, pull that yarn tail through, and then if you go back to the final single crochet that you did just in the closest loop to us currently, so just this one loop here, pull that yarn tail through like this. Then if you just slightly adjust your piece like this, you should see that now you can't really tell where the round ended. You've created this fake single crochet here, and now it just looks like one continuous round with, like I say, no obvious end, so it just makes it a lot neater, and I like using this technique. So you're going to want to copy that 5 more times so that you've got 6 of these circles in total. As I said before, we're going to sew 3 to each of the feet, so yeah, I'm going to show you how to do that next. I've sewn down most of the dots now, so I've sewn these 3 on this foot. This is to the bottom of the foot, by the way. You can use a picture of Cinderace to help you with the positioning of these dots, but yep, this is the bottom of one foot, and then this is the other foot, and I'm going to show you me sewing the final dot now. So the first thing to mention is if you're going to be using pins like I am, just be very careful, because the other side of the pin is going to come through the other side of your work, so as you're holding this, just be careful, otherwise you might poke yourself with the pin by accident. But yeah, what I'm going to do is just pin that in place, grab my yarn needle, and then I'm going to be whip stitching all the way around to sew that down. So I'm going to go into a blue loop to start with, and then come back through 2 of my yellow loops, and then through another blue loop, and just repeating that all the way around. And once you've done a few stitches, you can probably just remove the pin. Okay, so once you've sewn all the way around, you can then just weave your yarn tail through like this, and do the same thing with your other shorter tail if you haven't already fastened that off and cut it off. Just like that, and then you can cut your tails. So yeah, that's it really. So you're going to just need to repeat that for all of the dots in this sort of positioning. So that will be the bottom of the foot, and then this is what it looks like from the top. So that will be the feet complete. So come back once you've sewn those down, and we're going to start making the legs next. So for the legs, we're going to be using our dark blue yarn to start off with. We're going to start by chaining 8, but you're going to want to make sure that you leave a fairly long tail at the beginning, because we're going to use that for sewing later on. So I'm just going to leave this tail here at the start. So yeah, we're going to chain 8. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go to that first chain that we did, and we're going to single crochet in each chain all the way around, and that's going to create a round of 8. Okay, so that's round 1 complete. I'm just going to pull that tail through now as well. We're just going to leave that there, and like I said, we're going to use that later on for some sewing. So now on round 2, we're going to single crochet all the way around. So that should be 8 single crochets, and you can always mark your first stitch as well if you just need some help in knowing where the round starts and ends. So that was my first single crochet. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's round 2 complete. So now you're just going to want to single crochet all the way around for 5 more rounds. So that should be up to round 7, and that should be 8 single crochets per round. Then round 8, you're going to do 3 single crochet increase and repeat once more to get you up to 10 single crochets. Then for rounds 9 to 11, so 3 rounds in total, just single crochet all the way around. I'll meet you when you're about to do your final single crochet of round 11, as we'll then be changing to orange. I'm just about to do my final single crochet of round 11, and I'm going to change to my orange colour as I do this. I'm going to use just the standard colour change method again, because the colour change section of the leg is going to be covered by something that we're going to do later on, the little leg bands that we're going to add. So I'm just doing my colour change like normal, and then I'm now ready to start round 12 in my orange colour. So for round 12, we're going to be doing single crochet increase all the way around, which is going to get us up to 15 single crochets. So for the first couple, I'm just going to single crochet over my tails. And then I'm just going to push them to the side and continue doing my single crochet increase all the way around. And I am actually just going to cut that blue tail now to get it out of the way. Okay, so that is round 12 complete. I've changed to my orange colour, and I've now got 15 single crochets all the way around. Now for rounds 13 to 16, we're simply going to single crochet all the way around, so that'll be 15 single crochets in each round. I'll meet you at the end of round 16. I finished round 16, and this is what my first leg is looking like. I cut my orange yarn, leaving a bit of a tail. To be honest, I've probably left a bit too much of a tail here, but it doesn't really matter. You only really need a short tail, because we're not going to be using that for anything later on. So, and it's also up to you. You can sort of knot off this tail now on the inside of this leg if you want to, but I'm just going to crochet over this later on. So that's the first leg complete. You're going to want to do exactly all of those same steps again for a second leg, but this time don't cut your orange yarn, leave the yarn on the hook, and what we're going to do is we're going to join the 2 legs together in round 17 to create the body. So I'll meet you when you've got another leg but with the orange yarn still on your hook. I've got my 2 legs now, so let's start round 17. You're going to start off by doing 8 single crochets in the leg that's currently on your hook, and I would strongly recommend that you do use a stitch marker to mark this first single crochet because it's going to make it a lot easier to track this round. So that's my first single crochet. Now I'm going to do 7 more. Then I'm going to go to my other leg over here and I'm going to work 15 single crochets around this leg. So you can start from wherever you want, but I usually start from 1 or 2 single crochets away from the last single crochet of the last round that we did. So we're going to work our 15 single crochets. Now as I crochet over this bit and where the tail is, I'm just going to hold on to the tail. So that was 13, 14 and 15. And then to complete the round, we're just going to need to work 7 single crochets back into that first leg that we originally had on our hook. Now, if you're unsure where to start doing the 7 single crochets, you can just count back from the stitch marker. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this must be the first stitch that we need to go in. Trying to make it quite a tight stitch. And then we need to work 6 more. Okay, so that's round 17 complete. So you should have something that looks like this. So now we're starting to join those 2 legs together, and now for all the remaining rounds we're going to be working all the way around both of these legs that we've now joined together. I'm going to talk you through the next few rounds until we get to our next colour change. So for rounds 18 to 20, you're just going to single crochet all the way around, so that should be 30 single crochets for each round. Round 21, you're going to do 8 single crochet decrease and repeat that twice more to get you down to 27. Round 22, 7 single crochet decrease, repeat that twice more to get you down to 24. Then round 23, single crochet all the way around, so that should be 24 single crochets. I'll meet you when you get to your final single crochet of round 23, as we're then going to be changing to dark blue. Just about to do the final single crochet of round 23 and change to dark blue. So again, I'm just going to do the standard colour change method because I'm going to just position it so that this colour change is going to be at the back of Cinderace, so you won't really see it, but you could use a different technique such as the fake single crochet method if you want to make it a little bit neater. But yeah, this is literally all I'm going to do for the colour change. So now I'm ready to start round 24. In this round we're simply going to single crochet all the way around in blue, so just like this, and that should be 24 single crochets for round 24. Then for round 25 you're going to do 4 single crochet decrease, and you're going to repeat that 3 more times to get you down to 20 single crochets at the end of round 25. I will meet you when you're about to do your final decrease of round 25 because we're then going to be changing to white, and that will be the final colour change that we need to do for the body. I'm just going to do my final decrease of round 25 now and change to white as I do so. So I'm going to start the decrease like normal, but then instead of yarning over and pulling through all 3 loops in my dark blue, I'm going to do that in white instead. Okay, so now I am ready to start round 26 in my white colour, just like this. So for rounds 26 to 33, you're going to single crochet all the way around, so that should just be 20 single crochets in each round. I will meet you when you finish round 33, as we then need to stuff the body and the legs, and then we just need to do a couple more rounds, and then that will be the body and the legs complete. So I finished round 33 and I've added some stuffing, and this is what the body's looking like now. I've only stuffed this one leg, I haven't done this one here because I just wanted to show you a little tip in case you're struggling to get the stuffing in. So what I like to do is just place the stuffing on the open end of the leg and then use your scissors like this to push the stuffing in. Sorry, I'm struggling a bit to do this on camera, but it should start to go in eventually. Yep, you can see it's going in now. And just push that all the way to the top of the leg. I'm going to need to add some more stuffing to this. So that's the top part of the leg stuffed now. I'm just going to add some more stuffing to do the bottom part of the leg. I think that should be enough, just like that. So now you can see that both legs and the body are stuffed. I just stuffed the body from the top here because it was easier than going through the legs. So now we've just got a couple more rounds to complete with our white yarn. So for round 34, we're going to decrease all the way around to get us down to 10 single crochets, and that'll be 10 decreases. So that is round 34 complete. Now for round 35, we're going to decrease all the way around again. So this time it's just going to be 5 decreases, and that's going to get us down to 5 single crochets at the end of the round. I might just top up the stuffing a little bit actually, because I feel like this is feeling a little bit flat at the top. Just before I finish decreasing all the way around, just add a bit more stuffing. That should be enough. Just got 2 more decreases left to do. Okay, so that is round 35 complete. You can now cut your yarn, leaving a little bit of a tail. And we're now just going to close up that remaining hole at the top. It's not really the end of the world if you don't, because you are just going to be sewing the head over this part anyway, but I am just going to close up the hole because I just want to. So I'm going to go through the front loops of each of the remaining 5 stitches. Pull tight and then weave that yarn tail through to the back of the body, and then cut that because we don't need that tail for anything else now. Okay, so let me just zoom out. So you should have a body that's looking like this. As I mentioned before, the colour change, because I just did it in the normal method, you can kind of see where I did the colour change. So I am going to make this part be the back and this part be the front, just because this bit is a bit more neat. So you can do the same thing if you want as well. But yeah, I think the next thing that we're going to do now is to sew the feet to the ends of the legs, and then we're going to sew the head to the top of the body. So you're going to need your yarn needle for these steps. So I've sewn down one of the feet to one of the legs here. I'm going to just do the other one now on camera. I'm not going to be actually using any pins for this, but you could if you wanted to. I'm just going to be sort of using my hands to keep it in the right position. But basically you're going to want to sew the open part of the leg here to the back of the foot. So I'm going to start off by going into one of the stitches of the foot at the side. And then I'm just going to turn this upside down actually to do the back part. And just whip stitching all the way around. Now I'm going to turn back to the front. Sorry, just trying to make sure that I get this all on camera. Okay, so that's what that foot looks like after sewing around once. I'm probably going to do another round of sewing all the way around because I think it's a bit flimsy at the moment. So I'm just going to go around again to try and secure that in place a bit. I'm going to select some loops that are a bit higher up this time rather than just sewing in the exact same loops that I selected previously. I'm going to go and do the back part again. And then probably just do a couple more stitches from the front. Okay, so as you can see, I've basically run out of yarn to sew with, but I do think that this part here looks a little off. I don't know if you can tell, but it looks like the leg is kind of leaning to the left a little bit. So I think what I'm going to do is cut another length of dark blue yarn, reattach it over here and just sew down a few more stitches here to kind of try and almost sew up this little gap here, and then hopefully it will look a bit better. So yeah, I'm going to go and get some more dark blue yarn and show you that. I've got some more dark blue yarn, and as I mentioned, I'm just going to try and sew down a couple more stitches on the side here. I think that does look a little bit better. Okay, I think I might just leave it like that. So I'm now just gonna weave that yarn tail through to the bottom of the foot, and the same with this other tail here, and then I can cut those. Okay, so that is what it's now looking like with both the feet sewn to the legs. I'll zoom out a bit actually so you can see. So now we need to sew the head to the body. Now I'm going to sew the head to the body. Again, I'm not actually going to use any pins for this. I'm just going to hold it in place. And I'm not going to be particularly scientific about how I do this. I'm just going to whip stitch all the way around, probably at least twice to make sure that there's additional stability, because this headpiece is obviously a lot heavier than the headpiece is obviously quite heavy, so it's going to just flop around otherwise. I always like to keep checking as I'm doing it to make sure I'm happy with the positioning. If not, you can always undo the stitches you've done and just try again. There's no rush. Okay, so I've sewn around once now, and this is what it's looking like. If I pick this up, you can see the neck is very floppy at this point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be sewing around all the way around once more, again selecting some loops a bit higher up on the head to secure that a little bit better in place, and to hopefully make the head a bit more stable on the body. So I won't show you me doing that because I've already shown you sort of a similar thing on the foot. But I'm just going to sew around once more, show you what it looks like at that point, and make a decision if I'm going to sew around a third time or not. I've sewn around twice now, and as you can see, as I pick this up, it's a lot less floppy on the neck. So I think I'm happy with sewing around twice, but if you're finding it still floppy, then feel free to obviously sew around a third time, and that should help with the stability. It does look a little bit strange at this point, but we are obviously going to add arms and stuff. So yeah, once we add more details to this, it won't look quite so strange. So yeah, once you're happy with your sewing, then you can just feed the yarn tail through. You can feed it for a couple of times if you want, just to be extra secure. And then you can snip that. And then just make sure that you're happy with how the head looks on the body. So now that we've done that, let's see what we're going to do next. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to do the bands to go around the legs. So you're going to need your yellow yarn for this. So for the leg rings, again, we're going to need to make 2 of these, 1 for each leg. I've made 1 already, and then what we're going to do is we're going to need to sew it like this so that it forms an actual ring, and we'll sew this bit at the back so it's less visible. But what we're going to do is we're going to actually sew this together while it's on the leg so that it's then already fitted around the leg. And then depending on how tight it is for you, you could sew it down a little bit more to the back of the leg just to secure it in place and to make sure that it can't slide up and down the leg, but it may already be tight enough that you don't actually need to do that. So yeah, this is what it's going to look like. So let's make the second one together now, because they're made exactly the same way. So we're going to need our yellow yarn for this. We're going to start off by chaining 17, so this is going to be worked in rows. Okay, so that's my foundation chain of 17. Then what we're going to do is we're going to work 16 single crochets along the chain, starting from the second chain from hook, which is this one. You can work in the front loops here if you want, or you can work in the back bumps. I tend to prefer working in the back bumps just because I like how it looks, but it doesn't make a massive difference what you do. So we're just going to single crochet all the way along the chain until we get to the end. As I'm getting to the end here, I'm going to actually start crocheting over that tail. So this is my 13th single crochet. I'm just going to crochet over the tail so that I can then cut that afterwards. Okay, so that's row 1 complete. I'm just going to pull on that tail a little bit so that it's not as visible at the end there. And now I can cut it. We don't need that anymore. So yeah, at the end of the end of row 1, you should have your 16 single crochets. Now for rows 2 to 3, we're simply going to chain 1, turn, and work 16 single crochets across. So that will be the same for both rows 2 and 3, so I'll meet you when you finish row 3. So I finished row 3, this is what it looks like. So the final thing we need to do is to slip stitch row 3 to the foundation chain at the top here to create a kind of thicker band appearance that we can then sew together to make a ring. So I've just done that first slip stitch and I'm going to work my way across this piece, just slip stitching row 3 to the initial foundation chain. As you can see, this is a bit slow and fiddly, so I'm just going to work my way to the end and I'll meet you when I get to the end. So I finished slip stitching all the way down. This is what it looks like. We now just need to cut our yarn, leaving a tail long enough for sewing. It doesn't really need to be that long because we're not going to be doing loads of sewing with this, but that is what it should look like. So you need to obviously create 2 of these, and now we're going to sew them around the leg. So let's move on to that next. I've sewn down the first leg band. I'm going to do the other one with you now. So we're just going to place it around the leg. It doesn't really matter which way round you do it, but I personally prefer to have it this way round, so it kind of looks like it's I don't really know how to explain it, but this is the way around that I have it, but you can see that this sort of gives a different appearance. If you were to have it upside down, you probably just want to make sure that you're being consistent on both sides. That's the most important thing. You want to place it around where the colour change happens, so where it turns from blue to orange, and then you're going to sew it at the back so that we can hide the unmessy part. The messy part at the back of the body. So I'm just going to start off by closing up this gap by just sewing about 3 or 4 stitches together. And I'm going to do that using whip stitch. Can hide that. I don't know why that loop's come loose, but I can hide that later. Okay, so now I'm just gonna weave my yarn tail to more of the bottom of the band. I am just gonna sew one more stitch together, I think. Like that. And now what I can do is to sew down some stitches to the leg itself, just so that the band can't actually move up and down the body. You don't have to do this, but it does help to keep it a bit more secure. And as this bit's at the back, it won't be obviously visible unless you look at the back, so it doesn't matter if you're a little bit messy with your sewing here. I'm only going to sew down a few stitches, so I'm definitely not going to go all the way around, but you could if you wanted to. That might be enough. I'm just going to check the positioning of that at the front as well. Yep, I think that looks pretty good and even on both sides. So now I'm just going to weave that yarn tail through the leg band, and then I can cut that. So obviously you're going to want to sew both of those down to both legs, and you should get something that looks like this. We're now going to crochet the orange piece of, I guess, fur. I'm not really sure what it's meant to be, but the orange piece that goes in the centre of the head and sticks out. So obviously we're going to use our orange yarn for this. We're going to start off in round 1 by just doing 3 single crochets in a magic circle. And then for round 2 we're going to increase all the way around. This will be quite a tight round, so just take your time with this. Okay, so at the end of round 2 you should have your 6 single crochets. I'm actually going to talk you through all the remaining rounds of this headpiece because it is just a mixture of single crochets, increases and decreases in the rounds, so you should be comfortable with how to do those. So for round 3 you're going to single crochet all the way around, so 6 single crochets. Round 4, single crochet increase, repeat twice more to get you up to 9 single crochets. Rounds 5 to 6, single crochet all the way around, so 9 single crochets per round. Round 7, 2 single crochet increase, repeat 2 more times to get you up to 12 single crochets. Rounds 8 to 9, single crochet all the way around. Round 10, 3 single crochet increase, repeat twice more to get you up to 15 single crochets. Round 11, single crochet all the way around. round 12, 2 single crochet, increase, repeat 4 more times to get you up to 20 single crochets. Rounds 13 to 17, single crochet all the way around. Round 18, 8 single crochet, decrease, 8 single crochet, decrease to get you down to 18 single crochets. Round 19, single crochet, decrease, and repeat 5 more times to get you down to 12 single crochets. Then finally round 20, decrease all the way around to get you down to 6 single crochets. I'll meet you at the end of round 20. Just to be very clear, we're not stuffing this piece, so do not stuff this. Keep it completely unstuffed, and we will be flattening it at the end and then closing up that remaining hole and then sewing to the head. I've just finished round 20 and this is what the main headpiece looks like now. So what you're going to want to do is just cut your yarn, leaving quite a long tail for sewing, and then we're just going to close up this remaining hole. So pull through your yarn, grab your yarn needle, and then weave your yarn through the front loops of each of the remaining 6 stitches that you have here. So okay, so then the hole should be closed up when you pull on that yarn tail. Then what you're going to want to do, so just make sure that your piece is flattened like mine is, and then you can just weave your yarn tail to one of the sides. It doesn't really matter which one you start with. So I'm just going to weave mine to this position, and that's going to ensure that the yarn tail is in the right place to start sewing this down to the head. So now I'm going to pin this to the head and we're going to get sewing. As you can see, I've pinned the main headpiece to the head. Now, in terms of how you position this, you're going to want to make sure that you have enough space underneath that you can add a little nose and a mouth. So you're going to want to ensure that there's a few rounds left underneath this for you to do that. But then you're also going to want to obviously make sure that the top of this headpiece is going well above the head. So yeah, there's going to be a bit that we're not going to actually sew down, and that's completely fine. This bit is meant to stick up above the head. So on my piece, I've roughly positioned round 15 of this main headpiece to about round 10 of the head, so that might give you a bit of a guide in terms of where exactly to position this. But once you're happy and you've pinned it in place, all you're going to do is just to whip stitch all the way around until you get to your other pin on the other side, so roughly here for me. And yeah, just whip stitching the orange stitches to the white. You could also sew along the back of the headpiece as well, so along here, along the back if you want to, but you'll probably find that it's secure enough without you having to do that. So I'm personally not going to do that, but you could if you wanted to. So let's zoom in and get started with sewing this. So I'm just gonna start off here and literally just whip stitch around. So yeah, hopefully you get the idea. I'm just going to do that until I get to my other pin on the other side. I've now finished sewing this all the way around from here to here. I'm not going to sew down this back part, but again, as I mentioned earlier, you could if you want to. I'm just going to weave the yarn tail through this headpiece now and then cut this to get rid of it. So that's that. Now that we've sewn this down, the next thing that we can move on to is adding the face details with some felt. So you're going to need your felt, scissors and your glue for this. So the first felt piece I'm going to cut out is the sort of W shape that we need to cut out of our yellow felt that's going to sit on this main head piece. So I'm going to start off by just sort of laying my yellow felt on top of this and kind of cutting around it so that it's roughly in the shape of the main headpiece. I'm making it a little bit wider just so I've got some felt to play with if I need to. And then I'm just gonna refine this side of it. So that's what this is looking like now. Then I'm going to make it into more of, like I say, a W shape. That is my rough shape. I think I'm just going to refine that a little bit, make it a little bit thinner and smooth the edge of the middle bit as well. I made some small amendments to this yellow piece, and it's ready to be glued down now, but I'm going to do all the gluing I think in one go, so I'm just going to put that to the side for now. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to create some yellow strips to go on the side of each leg. So I'm going to do a strip, a small quite thin strip, and then a little yellow dot to go on top of that. So I'm actually just going to use some of the offcuts of felt that I just cut out of this piece here, because I might as well make use of them. But yeah, I'm just going to roughly create a little thin line, and I need to do the same thing on both legs, so I'm going to need 2 of each felt piece. So just trying to round that off a little bit. So that is the line that's going to go on the side of the leg, and then I am just going to do a very small little dot to go above that as well. Don't know if this is going to, let me just move something to make sure that doesn't roll over. So I'm just going to try and neaten this little offcut of yellow felt into a sort of circle shape. It doesn't really need to be perfect. This is just something that's on the side of Cinderace, so not particularly visible. But yeah, I'm just gonna place that on top of the strip like that. So I'm going to create exactly the same thing to go on the other side, and then again I'm going to glue everything down in one go at the end. These are all the yellow felt pieces done, so I'm just going to put them to the side. The next thing that I'm actually going to do is to embroider the mouth underneath the main headpiece. The reason for doing it at this stage is that I can then glue the felt pieces over the top of this, so I think this is just makes more sense to do it in this order basically. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by coming just beneath the main headpiece, then I'm going to come down about 3 or 4 rounds I think, so I'm just going to count down to about here, and then I'm going to try and come out a few single crochets away, so maybe about 3 single crochets away, 1 round up, and that's going to be where the one side of the mouth is going to be. Hopefully it'll make sense when you see it, hopefully. So I'm just going to go back in here and then try and find a sort of equivalent stitch to come out through on the other side. Maybe here. I can always undo it if I need to amend it. And then go back through here, come out. Okay, that's unusual. Normally I need to sort of redo it a few times to get me with a mouth that I'm happy with, but I actually think that looks quite good, so I'm just going to leave it like that. Then you can either, if you want to, you can sort of knot the black yarn in a space sort of around here-ish where we're going to place the eyes, and then you can just glue the eyes over the top of that and then it won't be visible. Or you can try and weave the the embroidery thread through say the main head piece a few times, just to sort of secure it in place, I suppose, like this. And then you can do the exact same thing on this side and then just snip those pieces of black embroidery thread. So yeah, what we have left to cut out of our felt is the eyes and also the nose. I'm now going to start cutting one of the eyes out of felt. Obviously we're going to need to do all of the eye pieces twice, but I'm just going to do one to show you and then I'll just repeat that all again. So we're going to want to place the eyes either side of this main head piece. So I'm going to start cutting a rough shape for this. I just do everything kind of freehand and there's not really any exact science to what I'm doing. Try not to make the eyes too big. Okay, so yeah, something that looks sort of like that for the white part of the eye. Next I'm going to cut out the red part, so I'm going to use this as a bit of a template. The red part's going to be smaller than the white part, so I can just start off using this as a guide and then make it smaller. That's still definitely way too big. Just going to cut off a bit off the bottom, I think. Okay, I think I'm happy with that. Now we need to create some blue outline for the eye, so I'm just going to start cutting around the white part. Then I can refine that. think that's broadly the shape I'm wanting, but I do want it to start only outlining kind of the outer part of the white of the eye, not going all the way to the inner corner. So something like that is probably more in line with what I'm wanting. I might just slightly refine this part. I think that might be a little too long. Okay, so then this is what the eye is looking like now. And then we're just going to need a little white dot or sort of strip of white on the red part of the eye. So you can just use a bit of an offcut of your white felt if you have one for that, and just cut a small, sorry, I'm just cutting this very small piece of white felt, maybe even a bit shorter than that, something like this, to then go on top of the eye like that. So that should be all the parts for the eye. So I'm just going to sort of use all of these pieces as templates to repeat that for the other side. I've cut out both of the eyes now, as you can see, so the final thing that we need to do is to cut the nose out of some red felt. So the nose is just a red triangle, so I'm just going to start by creating a triangle that's definitely going to be too big, and then I can cut that down a bit. Okay, so that's roughly the right size. I'll probably round it off a little bit on the edges so it's not so sharp, but that is roughly what the nose should look like. So once you've got all your felt pieces cut out like I have, you can start gluing things down. I would recommend gluing the eyes together first, so like gluing the red bit on the white and then gluing that little white strip onto the red and then gluing them onto your Cinderace. I think it will be easier that way. But yeah, I've just got my Fabri-Tac glue here, and literally all I'm going to do is just start gluing down pieces one by one. So just waiting for the glue to come out. Okay, so yeah, just applying the glue as neatly as I can. And just sticking it down. Like so. So I won't bore you with showing me gluing everything down, but I will show you at the end, once I've glued everything down, what it looks like. Just wanted to show you what it's looking like now that all the felt pieces are glued down, sorry. So that's the head, and then I've done the little felt pieces on the sides of the legs as well. So the next thing that we're going to do is move on to crocheting the ears. So you're going to need your white yarn for this. This is an example of one of the ear pieces. It's very similar to the main head piece, but it's just a bit longer and a bit thinner as well than the main head piece. So obviously you're going to need 2 ears, so let's start the other one together now. So for the first round, you're going to do 3 single crochets in a magic circle. Sorry, I've got a bit of glue on my thumb. Then for round 2, you're just going to increase all the way around. Okay, so at the end of round 2, you should have 6 single crochets. I'm just going to talk you through the remaining rounds as it's just single crochets, increases and decreases, so it should be fairly straightforward. So for rounds 3 to 4, you're going to do single crochet all the way around, so 6 single crochets per round. Round 5, single crochet increase and repeat that pattern twice more to get you up to 9 single crochets. Round 6 to 7, single crochet all the way around. Round 8, 2 single crochet increase, repeat that twice more to get you up to 12 single crochets. Rounds 9 to 11, single crochet all the way around. Round 12, 3 single crochet increase and repeat that twice more to get you up to 15 single crochets. Rounds 13 to 20, single crochet all the way around. Round 21, single crochet decrease and repeat that 4 more times to get you down to 10 single crochets. And then round 22, decrease all the way around to get you down to 5 single crochets. I'll meet you when you finish round 22 and we'll then close up the remaining hole and then we will get sewing the ears to the head. So I've got to the end of round 22 on my ear. I'm just going to cut my yarn, leaving a fairly long tail for sewing. And then I'm going to grab my needle, thread that through, and then I'm just going to close up this remaining hole by going through the front loops of each of the remaining 5 stitches. Okay, and then I'm just going to weave that yarn tail through to the side of the ear, doesn't really matter which side, so that's then ready in the right position for sewing. So you're going to want to make 2 of these ears. Come back when you've got 2 and I'll show you how to sew them to the head. Sorry, one extra step that I forgot actually that we're going to need to do before we sew the ears to the head is to create these yellow inner ear pieces that we're then going to sew to the ears. You could do that after you'd sewn the ears to the head, but I think it's easier to do it at this stage while the ears are still not attached. So you're going to need your yellow yarn for this. I've obviously created one of the inner ear pieces there. You're going to need 2 of these. So what we're going to do is we're going to simply chain 11 to start with. Okay, and then all we're going to do is just single crochet down the chain, so that should be 10 single crochets in total. I'm working in the back bumps as I have done previously in this tutorial, but it doesn't really matter. It just slightly changes the way that the piece will look, but yeah, you can crochet into the front loops if you would prefer. As I get to the final few stitches here, I am just going to crochet over the tail too, then I can cut that at the end. Okay, then I'm just going to pull on the tail to make it look neater at the ends there. Then I'm going to cut that. And then I'm also going to cut my yellow yarn, leaving a long tail for sewing. You do want it to be fairly long because you are going to need to sew up and down this inner ear piece. So once you've got 2 of these, come back and I'll show you how to sew them to the ears. I've sewn down one of the inner ear pieces, as you can see here, and I'm going to do the other one with you now. So you're just going to want to position it a few rounds up from the bottom of the ear, so maybe 3 rounds up from the bottom. You can use some pins to keep it in place if you want, but I'm just going to be holding it down with my hands. And you're just going to want to start whip stitching up the piece. So I'm going to go like this. Just whip stitching all the way up, and then I'm going to whip stitch all the way back down again until I get back down to the bottom part here. So I'll meet you when I've done that. I finished sewing the inner ear piece all the way around, so I'm now just going to weave that yarn tail through the piece. And then snip that. Okay, so once you've sewn down both of your inner ear pieces, come back and I'll show you how to sew the ears to the head. So I've sewn down one of the ears and I'm going to do the second one with you now. You're going to want to position it just above where you placed your eyes and next to the main head piece as well. So once you've got a position you're happy with, just pin it down and then we can start whip stitching just around this bottom part of the ear. You can sew the back part down as well if you want, but I'm personally not going to be doing that because I feel it's secure enough without having to do that. So I'm just going to start whip stitching. Okay, so I'm just going to do that until I kind of reach around where the other pin is, and I'll show you what it looks like when I've done that. I've finished sewing down the second ear now, so I'm just going to weave my yarn tail through the head. And as you can see, as I mentioned, I haven't sewn down this bit at the back. You could do if you wanted to. Might make it a little bit neater looking. And now I'm just going to snip that. Okay, so we're nearly there with the head. The next thing that we're going to need to do is the little face fluff pieces. So there's going to be 4 of those to crochet. So let's move on to that next. I've gone ahead and crocheted all 4 of the face fluff pieces because the pattern is pretty straightforward for these. So I'll just talk you through how to create one of these. So for round 1, you're going to do 4 single crochets in a magic circle. Round 2, single crochet increase to get you up to 6. Round 3, 2 single crochet increase, 2 single crochet increase to get you up to 8. And then rounds 4 to 9, so 6 rounds in total, just single crochet all the way around. Then when you finish that, just cut your yarn, leaving a tail long enough for sewing, and then add a little bit of stuffing inside each of these pieces. So you're going to need 4 of these, 2 for each side of the head, and I'm going to show you how to sew them down now. I've sewn down 3 of the face fluffs, as you can see, so 2 on this side, and then I've done 1 on this side. I'm going to do 1 underneath, so you'll see that I've positioned them so that the top one is just slightly below the outline of the eye, and then the other one is just positioned directly below the top one. So I'm going to just pin my final one in place now. And then thread my needle, and I'm just going to be whip stitching all the way around to sew this down. So I'm going to start at the bottom, So yeah, I'll meet you when I've gone all the way back round to where I started. I finished sewing all the way around now, as you can see, so I'm just going to weave that yarn tail through the head and then cut that. Okay, so that is what the head looks like now. I'll just zoom out so you can see better. So that is all elements of the head complete now. So the next thing that we need to move on to is making the arms. So you're going to need your white yarn for this. With the arms, I've again skipped ahead a little bit just to make this video a bit shorter and a bit less repetitive. So this is one of the arms that I've completed, and then this one I've nearly finished. I've just finished the final round, so I just need to close up the top of the arm yet, which I will do with you. But yeah, what I've done so far on this arm is for round 1 I've done 8 single crochets in a magic circle, rounds 2 to 3 single crochet all the way around, round 4 2 single crochet decrease, 2 single crochet decrease to bring you down to 6 single crochets, round 5 single crochet, then 2 increases, then another single crochet, and then another 2 increases to bring you back up to 10 single crochets. That gives you this kind of little indented bit that makes this part look a bit more like a hand, I suppose. And then for round 6 to 15, so 10 rounds in total, just single crochet all the way around, and then you're just going to want to add some stuffing to the arm as well. So I'll meet you when you finish round 15 and we can close up the top of the arm together. Okay, so once you finish round 15, you're just going to want to do 5 slip stitches across the top of the arm to close it up. And obviously make sure that you've added your stuffing. And then just cut your yarn, leaving a tail for sewing. And then come back when you've got 2 arms and I'll show you how to sew these to the body. As you can see, I've sewn down one of the arms. I'm going to do the other one with you now. So you're going to want to place it at the side of the body. You can kind of try and line it up with that yellow felt piece that you glued down before as well if you want to. That might be helpful. So I'm just having a look at this and just making sure that I'm happy with the positioning. Again, you could use some pins to keep this in place if you wanted to, but yes, I'm actually going to sew it this way round. So like that. So now I'm going to start whip stitching along the top of the arm. Okay, just double check I'm still happy with the positioning of that, but I think that looks fairly even, so that's good. Then I'm just going to sew down a couple of extra stitches both at the back of the arm and also at the front, so just to keep it a bit more flat to the body. Then I'm going to go through the body to the front of the body, so that I can sew down a couple of extra stitches here. Maybe one more. Okay, so you should have something that ends up looking like that. Then I'm just going to weave my yarn tail through to the back, and then I can cut that I need to do the same with the yarn tail from the other arm. Okay, so that's the arms complete. The next thing that we're going to do is to create some rings, basically exactly the same as what we did for the legs, but they're going to go around the top of the arms as well, so you're going to need your dark blue yarn for that. So I've already gone ahead and crocheted my armbands because it's the exact same pattern as the leg bands. So just as a reminder, for row 1 you're going to chain 17 and then work 16 single crochets across the chain. Then for rows 2 to 3 you're going to chain 1, turn and then work 16 single crochets across for each row. Then when you finished row 3, just fold the piece closed and then work 16 slip stitches across both the foundation chain and row 3 to close up the piece, and then cut your yarn leaving a bit for sewing, and you should end up with something that looks like this that we can then close off when we place it round the arm, and we can do the sewing at that point. So come back when you've got 2 of these and I'll show you how to sew them to the arms, but it's basically exactly the same as what we did for the legs. I've sewn down the first armband, let's do the second one together. So you're just going to want to place the band around the top of the arm. It doesn't really matter, by the way, which way round you have it, i.e. this way, or if you choose to have it this way, it's completely just what you think looks best. So yeah, you can make that decision for yourself, but I'm just going to do my sewing on the underside underneath the arm just so that it's less visible. I'm just going to close up that ring. I'll probably do roughly 3 stitches to close that up. And then it's up to you if you want to do this, but I'm also going to sew a couple of the stitches to the body as well, just to keep it more secure in place and mean that you can't actually remove this armband. Just like that, and then I'm just going to weave my yarn tail through the armband like that, and then I can cut it. So that is what it's looking like now that I've got both of the armbands sewn down. So we're getting very near to finishing this now. The next thing that we're going to do is use our dark blue yarn to create a V shape on the front and then a straight line on the back. Now you can do this with dark blue felt if you can't be bothered to crochet, so feel free to cut the shapes out of felt if you would prefer, but I'm going to show you a crochet method because I prefer crocheting as many pieces as possible. That's just my preference. So I'm going to zoom in a bit. So for the back strip, you're going to start off by, so we're going to be working in rows. We're going to start off by chaining 8. And then starting from the second chain from hook, we're just going to work 7 single crochets across. And as usual, I'm going to crochet over this tail as I get towards the end of the row. Okay, so that's row 1. Then for row 2, chain 1, turn and simply work 7 single crochets across. And that's it. I'm just going to cut my yarn, leaving a fairly long tail for sewing, and then you can also cut that tail if you crocheted over it already. So that is the back strip. Now we're going to move on to making the front V shape. For the front V, again, it's pretty straightforward. We're just going to be doing one row for this. So we're going to start by chaining 10. Then starting from the second chain from hook, we're going to do 4 single crochets. Then an increase. And then 4 single crochets to the end of the row. And that is it. Again, cut your yarn, leaving a tail long enough for sewing. And then you can cut that other tail if you've crocheted over. So that's our 2 dark blue pieces complete. Now we're ready to sew these to the body. I've started by pinning the V shape down to the front of the body like this. You might need to slightly move your armbands out of the way for a bit to make it a bit easier to sew this down, but sorry, I'm trying to get into this particular stitch. There we go. I'm just going to whip stitch literally all the way around this V shape. So I'm going to go all the way around and then back to where I started, just following the shape of the piece, and yeah, with my pins in place, hopefully it will help to keep this in the right position that I want it in. So yeah, I'm just gonna continue working all the way around. I don't think you need to watch me do the whole thing, so I'll meet you when I get back to where I started. This is what it's looking like now that I've fully sewn down the V shape. So as usual, I'm just going to weave my yarn tail through the piece and then just cut that. And now we can move on to sewing the back strip to the back. So just like with the V, I've just pinned this in place, and I'm going to do the exact same thing, just whip stitching to sew this down all the way around. And I've moved the armbands out of the way a little bit as well to assist with that. Okay, so I'm just going to do that all the way around. I finished sewing the back strip all the way around, so once more just going to weave my yarn tail through this and then cut it. And now we are ready for the final step, which is to crochet the tail and then sew that on. For the tail, you're going to need your white yarn. We're going to start off by doing 3 single crochets in a magic circle. So that's round 1, and then for round 2 you're going to do an increase and then 2 single crochets. Okay, so at the end of round 2 you should have 4 single crochets. I'm just going to talk you through the remaining rounds now. So for round 3 you're going to do increase 3 single crochets to get you up to 5 single crochets. Round 4, increase 4 single crochets to get you up to 6. Round 5, 3 increases and 3 single crochets to get you up to 9. Round 6, single crochet all the way around. Round 7, 2 single crochet increase, and repeat that pattern twice more to get you up to 12 single crochets. Then rounds 8 to 10, so 3 rounds in total, single crochet all the way around. Once you finish that, you're going to want to stuff and then we'll cut our yarn, leaving a tail for sewing, and then we'll sew the tail to Cinderace. So I finished round 10 and added a bit of stuffing. I'm now just going to cut my yarn, leaving a tail for sewing. And now this is ready to sew to the back of Cinderace. I've pinned the tail to the back of Cinderace, and I'm now just going to sew this down by whip stitching all the way around. Okay, so I'll meet you when I get back to where I started. I've finished sewing the tail all the way around. I'm just going to weave my yarn through the tail and then cut that. And now we're done, so I'm going to change my camera setup and show you a better view of the finished Cinderace. Excuse the slight mess, but this is what my finished Cinderace looks like, and from the back. So yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this tutorial, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys!